a roasted vegetable recipe that's going to be a little bit quicker cooking if you're concerned about, me in particular, I don't think that there's much concern if you're having a well-balanced diet, having some of the higher carbohydrate root vegetables. They're super rich in fiber and vitamins. But if you are someone that's concerned about that and want lower carbohydrate options or just some variety, then roasting some cauliflower is a good choice. So what we're going to do to this is, it's very simple. So we have our chopped up cauliflower. This is very evenly chopped, but if you are chopping up your cauliflower and there's these little bits and pieces that, almost crumbs of cauliflower that are escaping everywhere into your cutting board, I encourage you to scoop those up and include those. They become these like really crispy, delicious bits in there that cook and caramelize a bit more than the rest of it, and they really add some nice variety and texture. So don't leave them behind just because they're a different size. This is one time when I encourage you to have multiple sizes of chopped ingredients when you're doing your roasting. So all I'm going to do to this is add a little bit of olive oil. And again, not too much, just enough to coat it, give it a sheen. Shouldn't be a puddle in the bottom. And that oil is just going to help to caramelize this. I didn't mention it in our other roasting recipes, but if you wanted to roast your vegetables without any oil, you certainly can. They will not maintain crispness for very long when you get them out of the oven though. So you want to make sure that you're making them immediately when you want to serve them, because they'll start to get soggy right away without the use of that oil. And especially if you're doing something with some natural sugars, like any root vegetables, you want to make sure that you definitely line your baking sheets with parchment paper. I always do. It makes cleanup a lot easier. And I actually also have in my home kitchen some silicone baking mat. Those are reusable, so you can wash them and not have to dispose of them, and that works just the same as parchment paper would, but is reusable. All right, so our cauliflower has a nice sheen, no puddle in the bottom. We haven't over-oiled this. And I'm just going to use a couple different spices that we've used in other contexts. So I have some whole cumin seed here. I'm just going to sprinkle that into the cauliflower. And this is a spice that is okay to use whole. It doesn't have to be ground up. It adds a little bit of crunch in the end product. And then we have some ground coriander. Coriander, if it's whole, is actually the seeds of a cilantro plant, but they're very big and crunchy, and they have just way too intense a flavor to have them whole. So we always want to use those ground up. You can buy them whole. Whole spices actually last much longer than ground spices, and you can toast them in a pan and grind them up. When I grind spices at home, I grind them up in a coffee grinder that I have, a cheap one that I have just for spices or just for grains. I wouldn't want to use it to make coffee unless you want that flavor of coffee, which I don't recommend. And I'm going to put a little salt. Again, if your oven is finicky, you can salt afterward to help make sure you can caramelize this. And a little pepper. And then it's pretty much ready to go. I'm just going to toss this so everything is evenly coated in our spices. And again, I'm sure you're going to see a theme if you watch a few of these videos on roasting techniques. We just want to make sure we have a single layer, that there's space for everything so it's not going to steam as it heats in the oven. If you feel like you got a few too many in one, you can just move them into the other side. All right. All right, I think that's pretty good. We have our oven heated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have a convection function, you could use 400. We're going to move this into the oven, cook for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to check it with a fork. Because this is not starchy, we don't have to ensure that it's cooked fully all the way through. We want it to have some nice caramelization, but still have a little tiny bit of resistance with a fork, because that will prevent it from being soggy when we go to eat it. But a fork should go in just with just a tiny bit of resistance. So here is our cauliflower. And it's ready to go in the oven. So here we have our roasted cauliflower with cumin and coriander. And so how I checked for doneness was partly just to look at the nice caramelization that we have, this browning on the edges of the cauliflower. And then taking a fork, just checking it to make sure that it's tender. You want, again, a little bit of resistance, but not a lot, and then you know it's done. So this is perfectly done. Go ahead and taste it, see if it has enough salt or other seasoning. Just do a little more, pinch more, just a little more pepper. And I think we're good. We'll go ahead and try one more. Yeah. So good. So I would say, you know, if you like a lot of caramelization, you can even brown this a bit more. But this is really what you're aiming for as kind of the first stages of being done. If you have the little bits, you can see these little crumbly bits here. These add a nice crunch and texture. So again, don't leave those behind. And this would be really great on its own, on the side of, you know, any of the protein dishes that we've made in the roasting class. It could be in a salad, a bowl, really any place that you would like to have cauliflower. This would be a great addition.